Hey, up next on the MARR Army Rock Show, so thrilled to have Corky back with us. Corky, of course, the frontman vocalist of Code Red Riot. He's a good friend of the show. We go back a long ways. Their new record, Mask, is expected out June 29th. You can pre-order it right now. Corky, welcome back, man.
It's good to be back, sir. Good to be back.
So it's so good to talk to you. So many things I want to ask you about. I don't even know where to begin, but let's just kind of, I guess the first thing most people that know you are going to want to know is about the decision to step out from behind the drum kit and be a lead vocalist.
It's funny, man. It wasn't necessarily a decision more than just something that ended up happening. When I left Otherwise, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do next. And I've always recorded, how Otherwise got signed was off of a demo we recorded in my garage, so I've always been an engineer and producer. I produced the acoustic EP that we did with Otherwise a few years back, and so one of the first things I did was I just went straight into songwriting, doing songs that I felt like writing and recording. And when I started sending them around to my lawyer and old record label contacts and that kind of thing, every one of them said, hey man, you should just start a band. and so, what I was sending around as essentially what I considered production demos and writing demos turned into the demos that started this particular band without even knowing that was what I was doing. And next thing I know, I'm a frontman.
And then behind the scenes there, what I think I've read is that essentially you played almost or virtually all the instruments on this release, didn't you?
Yeah, we ended up doing the record very similarly to how I did the demos in the first place. So I tracked all the rhythm guitars, all the bass, all the drums, and the vocals, obviously. And then I brought in my main guitar player to do all the cool solos and guitar overdubs over the main beds of the music. But the record label really, they were so excited with the original versions of these songs, I didn't really want to mess with how we approached them or how they were done, and so I just ended up going in to do the record the same way.
So for folks that don't know the rest of the band yet, why don't you introduce us to who your band members are as you're out and about on tour with Code Red Riot?
Well, my guitar player is a guy named Taz. He will respond to Taz, T-A-Z. His name is Tyler, but it's funny. I found this guy through my old drum tech in Otherwise, and he was in the band with my drum tech back in Minnesota. And when I was looking for band members at this point in time, it was, almost 2 years ago. It's funny, I was running into the same issue in Vegas where a lot of the musicians that I knew in town were comfortable, and they got steady gigs out here and are making a solid income and everything. And so when I suggested starting an original band and going out on the road for who knows what purpose, it was difficult to kind of find guys. So it was funny, I got connected with Taz, sent him the demos, and he was on a plane and out here the following week to start running through the songs. And he's a cool cross between like Joe Perry and Jimmy Page and Slash kind of all combined into the same character. It's really, really cool. And then I found a bass player by the name of John Wozniak, and John... It was funny, John I knew in passing here or there, but several years ago when we were in other bands around Las Vegas, John was in a band that included Frank Sidoris, who's now with Slash and the Conspirators, and Rob Zacharian, who had played with Adelita's Way forever. And I was like, you know what, I should hit this John guy up and see if he's still doing some stuff. And John's this really, really cool cat that, both on a personality level and a playing level that's really brought things together on the low end. And then, funny enough, I haven't really announced it anywhere, but when we hit the road, I'm going to have a new drummer behind the kit. Similar thing where the guy that we'd done a bunch of shows with got busy around Vegas and found the time to do stuff in Vegas and figured he wanted to focus staying in town. So I found another guy that, like I say, I haven't really announced it yet, so it'll be top secret for a little bit, but found a killer player that reminds me of me in my younger days. I'll say that behind the kit. So I'm really excited to have this guy come in and hit the skins on this tour. And all things considered, I'm hoping it is a long-term situation because this guy's really, really great behind the kit.
So a lot of people have probably watched the music video for Living Low. Now, did you guys get a hefty cleanup bill for that video? It's kind of a wild video there.
It's funny. I got connected with some of my old friends essentially to do that video. The director was a guy named Shandan Horan, who he used to be the video guy at Century Media when Otherwise signed our deal. And I hit him up about this crazy idea that I wanted to do, basically with the general theme of, the song is Living Low. It's about getting through adversity, and sometimes it's hard to show in an initial video with, frankly, a small budget, because that's what first videos get, is very small budgets. And I said, look, man, I just want to get attacked in this video, and I keep thinking of like paint and all this crazy stuff as this analogy for getting attacked in life and having to get through the adversity, and I just want to get smacked by a bunch of paint in this video. What do you think? And he's like, let me put it onto my team. I think we can go do something with this. and Shandan works out of this really cool warehouse down in Arizona, where they really have carte blanche on whatever they want to do in there. So we built this set, with the 3 walls and this tiny little set, and just rocked out and just completely destroyed the thing all in one day. And, the hardest part for us was like figuring out what we were going to do in regards to instruments and clothing and that kind of thing, because we knew the stuff was going to get trashed by the end of the day, and it got totally trashed. But that was part of the thing. Is like I wanted to do something fun and interesting and different, and frankly, it wasn't the most comfortable shoot, but that was kind of the point. Again, getting through the day and having fun doing it, even though it wasn't the easiest day in the world.
Now, you guys haven't wasted any time hitting the road, so tell folks a little bit about your upcoming touring schedule.
Well, the week that our album comes out, right after that, we hit the road with Gemini Syndrome. So we do one CD release show at Slide Bar in Fullerton, California, which is a cool little place. I played a few times. And then a week later, we hit the road with Gemini Syndrome, hitting everywhere from Oklahoma, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Colorado, Iowa, and Arizona and New Mexico.
Awesome.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the only awesome part is we're gonna be pulling for you to get out here to the East Coast.
I know, right? And it's funny too. Like we have another run that's getting scheduled in September, and it's funny. I'm not actually sure if that one's hitting the East Coast or not. We might not actually get to the East Coast till the wintertime. So it'll be good. When we hit the East Coast in the wintertime, it'll be the exact opposite that it is here in the summertime in Vegas. So,
So, hey, I see you have a merch store up with some T-shirts and stuff people can pre-order, and I have to ask you, because I know you're an artist, did you do the artwork for all the T-shirts?
No, it's funny. I have a certain style of art and a certain thing that I do, and what I do is I end up finding artists typically online that I like their work, and I'll send them initial ideas. Sometimes it'll be a sketch, sometimes it'll be just a verbal idea of what I'm thinking of, and kind of let them do their thing, because really with shirt designs, you got to have a certain amount of graphic knowledge in the computer and Adobe Illustrator and all that good stuff, and at this point that's a little bit beyond where my expertise lies. So I do work with a handful of artists and have them kind of bring to life what I've been kind of stewing up in my brain. And it's cool, man. It's a lot of fun. Like the first 4 designs are up right now, 4 or 5 actually. And I have another, I think 8 or 10 in the queue. So it's funny. I get hooked really quickly when I start finding cool stuff and coming up with cool ideas. I'll get all the art collected, and I'm like, man, I hope we have enough time and budget to get all these ordered one day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So
it's fun.
So, I haven't heard the full album yet, and the first turns I've heard are pretty heavy tunes. Are there any ballads on the record?
There's a couple. There's one specific ballad that's at the end of the record that I'm really excited about it. It'll be interesting to see how people respond to it. I mean, it definitely sounds a lot different than everything else that's on the record. I was trying to put it in the middle of the record, and I just couldn't seem to find the right spot, so that's how it kind of ended up at the end. But then there's a couple of other tunes that are a little more, let's say, melodically pop influenced. You know, like I've had a steady background in my day of Nirvana and Green Day and Pearl Jam and all that kind of stuff. So there's a couple tunes that kind of lean a little bit more towards that as well. And we actually have a video coming out. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but the video should be out in about a week for a song called Slide. And that one's a little more pop and melodic influence, and I'm excited for that one, man. It's a really, really cool tune, and it was actually the very last song written for the record, written right before we started recording, which is, on the flip side, Living Low was actually the first song written for this band. So the first song and last songs written are the ones that are getting the videos right out the gate.
Now, for folks that like follow you on Facebook, you're such a busy guy too, because when you're not doing the Code Red Riot stuff, you're still playing with a bunch of other musicians out there in Vegas, and people are you still doing the Blue Man Group thing, or do you just don't have time anymore?
I mean, I call myself a full-time sub, where I really don't have like gigs that I'm working full-time. That was really what I was doing before the Otherwise deal, which at this point, that was like 7 years ago when we signed that record deal. So, because I worked full-time for Blue Man for the better part of 10 years, and full-time for any of these gigs in Vegas, I mean, you're doing shows steady 5 nights a week at the same show, and then trying to find, you know, which off days you can shuffle around to do original music. So since I've, you know, really been able to focus on the original music thing, when I'm back in Vegas, I'm like a first call sub on 4 or 5 different shows around town. So during certain times of the year, I'm still working 6 or 7 days a week, but playing 4 different shows or 5 different shows throughout each week. So it's cool. Your mind kind of gets numb after a certain while trying to remember which show you're doing, and you know, there's a lot of cover songs involved in a lot of those gigs, but a lot of these shows do them differently. So maybe I'll be playing one song on Tuesday and then have to remember a completely different arrangement for that song on Wednesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I don't know how you do it. That's a lot to remember.
It's fun. It keeps the chops up, keeps the brain working. And you know, I've probably played in 20 different bands covering hip hop, top 40, country, classic rock, 80s rock, you know, everything. And each one of them, there's specific things that go into creating a successful song. And you know, there's no surefire method in writing a hit, but there's certain things that you're like, okay, that's a quality technique to use. Let me see if I can try that in this one. You know, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Well, man, Corky, it's so good to talk to you again. Once again, the band is Code Red Riot, and Corky's, he is kind of the drummer, but he's the front man. He's the drummer on the recordings, but he is the front man of the band. The record Mask is expected out June 29th, going out on tour real soon with Gemini Syndrome. So, Corky, man, I always appreciate having you on the show. You've been real good to being accessible to us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. I'm so excited to get back out on the road again, and I'm excited to get these songs out there. You know, every time you create a record, it's like you finish it, and then it takes a while before it actually gets released. So I'm really, really excited to get out there and play them to crowds that are familiar with the music. And like I say, sooner or later we'll get out there to the East Coast so I can say hi and give you guys a good hug again.
Awesome, man. That sounds great. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so much, man.